as I earlier described, complement. Back then, already he had identified that, and then he was the Nobel for that. And then, as the previous speaker very elegantly mentioned, the importance of Landsteiner. For the first time in the history, he identified what we now call as autoantibodies. And he was the first one to describe the pathology called Donat-Landsteiner syndrome, which is actually hemolytic anemia, and that was the first ever identification of pathology due to the presence of autoantibodies, and these autoantibodies were directed against blood group or blood cells. We heard about the importance of the blood transfusion in the previous talk. So this is a very important finding. Then soon we understood not only the pleasant aspects, the useful aspects of antibodies, but we also started understanding the ugly side of that. If these autoantibodies can cause pathology, there is also a dysregulated immune response, as I told you, because of the antibodies, particularly IgE, is causing allergy, and anaphylaxis and allergy can be quite fatal, as you all know. I'm cutting once again the story short, and then coming to the structure and function aspects very quickly. Linus Pauling back then identified for the first time that an antibody recognizes an antigen like the lock and key theory for the first time, and he was already an an enzymologist, and he for the first time he coined this word, the lock and key theory. So we are now getting more into the structural aspects. Incidentally, Linus Pauling had the bad habit of going to Sweden very often. He collected a few Nobel Prizes on the way. And then, meanwhile, in England, Rodney Porter and Gerald Edelman, they split open the molecule of antibodies. They knew what the heavy chains were, what the light chains were, what the binding regions were, what the constant regions were. So more and more structural input, very important. Now I'll go back to early 1900s and touch a little bit upon French scientists who contributed very importantly. That's Robert Debré, Nicole, and Conseil. They identified, because we already knew by then, von Bering's findings, that if you inject against a particular pathogen, you have a serum that is rich in a particular set of antibodies. So these people went on identifying various antigens, essentially the microbes, and started collecting the hyperimmune serum. And this was the passive immunotherapy, a very important finding. But then the essential component was the antibody. So we knew the importance of passive immunotherapy right then, and then came the bad news, the World War II. And as we just now heard a few seconds ago, the ugly picture of the World War II was the soldiers were dying on the war front, but more people were dying actually in the hospitals. And they were dying of two reasons. Essentially because of infections, there were no antibiotics per se at that time in full swing use. And then they were also dying because of the fluid loss. And so the United States of America commissioned a certain Ed Kahn to find out a method as quickly as possible to ensure that we get these antibodies. By then we knew the importance of antibodies and they could fight the infections. So do it in a mass, do it in a big scale, and that's when the collection of plasma, huge amount of plasma was started collecting, and Ed Kahn succeeded in making for the first time with his, by then he had already known the technology in Boston, and so he applied it at an industrial level and collected the plasma fractions into various components. And I don't know whether you people, when you order from Merck or Sigma or whatever your people, when you order albumin, just notice it next time, they say fraction 5, and that's the same fraction 5 that was identified a century ago by Ed Kahn. But he also had by then purified the fraction of gamma globulins we call antibodies. By then we had known the structure of them, and so we now knew how to collect pools of plasma from several thousand donors and collect the antibodies in mass. And this was going to be a very useful tool, because soon a pediatrician, Bruton, he saw a patient, a young boy, coming into his clinic having repeated respiratory infections. He was not able to treat them, and by then he had known that you need gamma globulins, and if you look at the profile of your blood, you may identify some component. And what he identified was that this boy on the top there, compared to the healthy control on the top, the middle panel, as you can see, was missing the particular gamma peak. And then he thought that this must be the gamma globulin peak, and let's try to substitute that. And by then, as I told you, in Boston you already had the gamma globulin fraction, the pools of immunoglobulins. So what he did was he injected this boy with these gamma globulins or the pooled antibodies. But what happened was a dramatic importance, significant result. The boy was rescued and he did not have any infection anymore. So we now knew that there are patients that are born with a defect in this particular gamma globulin peak, and you can actually inject them with this gamma globulin and you can actually rescue them. And that is the beginning of the treatment of what we call as primary immunodeficiency diseases, particularly A gamma globulinemia. I'll talk about that in a minute. But we had now known a method of saving all these thousands of patients just using pooled normal immunoglobulins. However, these pooled normal immunoglobulins were not at that time rendered usable by the intramuscular route. You had to inject them intramuscular. We were only using it intramuscular, sorry. And the intramuscular injection of big quantities of immunoglobulins was causing a lot of reactions, a lot of problems. And so, Charlie Geneve, the senior, because there's a junior Charlie Geneve, by the way, very, very well-known immunologist, missed the Nobel very narrowly, I think. The senior, Father Geneve, he identified the method of how to render